Hello and welcome to Data Conversations over Coffee with myself, Craig Stewart. I'm very privileged to be joined by Michiel van Staden from Absa. He's a Data Analytics Leader there and also the recent winner of our DataCon Data Analytics Leader of the Year through the award system that we actually did back in March. Was due to happen at the physical conference itself, but for obvious reasons, didn't happen. A lot of people couldn't travel down. So we finally get into this July. There it is in the background, the certificate for Michiel. Michiel, welcome to the show, and again, congratulations.
Oh, thanks so much, Craig. Really looking forward to the chat, and such an honor to receive the reward, and welcome everybody on the line.
Yeah. So Michiel, maybe you can give everybody a little bit of background into your role in analytics. And then maybe just, I guess, your thoughts on leadership. This was a peer-reviewed judging panel or peer-reviewed award. So it's not something that we sort of just picked out, from a popularity contest or, the first person to actually submit an award. It was, judged and awarded by data analytics leaders themselves. So I think there's a lot of credibility there. So maybe you can give us a bit of insight into your thoughts on leadership.
Yeah, so maybe a bit about my position currently. So I lead a team within what we call our everyday banking division. And it's very much around campaign and marketing analytics. So it's around the communications with customers. So it's a very practical area. All the data and analytics work you do is very much around what you're currently communicating with your customers, what's working, what's not working, and also where the opportunities are to improve on it going forward. And I think that's very much my learnings around leadership as well. I think you can read so many textbooks about leadership, even going training courses. And obviously these things help. But for me, what I've found is leadership is just such a practical thing that you need to kind of figure out. And each person's journey is different as well. Especially coming from a technical background, there's just so many things you need to figure out around how you translate your technical skills into, I suppose, a skill set and abilities that could make you a good leader. And then also within your specific business setup, specific area of analytics, how do you actually make this work?
Yeah. So maybe we can talk, I think that's one area that sometimes data analytics people struggle with to a degree as they move up the ranks, is really, changing their style from being quite technical in what it is that they're proficient at and really good at. And then, they get pushed up into a leadership role, but they don't necessarily have those leadership skills and, let's say, people skills, the soft skills, the strategic skills, etc. Did you find that that's something you really had to develop over time, or was it something that you kind of found was quite sort of inherent in your characteristics?
So I would definitely not say it was natural or inherent. No, I think it's very much something I had to develop over time. And these things kind of progress slowly over time. You get better with it bit by bit. But I think there was a few key moments as well for me. So, for example, at one point, I was still in a technical role, so still kind of individual contributor, not in a management position, but I was relatively senior at that stage already. And I thought I was doing really great work, doing amazingly technical things, solving problems, I thought. So in my head, I thought.
Sorry about that. Opa on my side.
No worries. So I suppose I was in a place where I thought I was doing really amazing things technically, and also solving business problems, but it wasn't necessarily translating. So my manager wasn't necessarily particularly happy with me and impressed. And I also didn't necessarily have as big of a practical impact on the business. So yeah, it was really difficult times. And through that, I think one of the main realizations around that time was that it's not really about the data analyst. It's almost not even about the data as much. It's really all about your audience to a large extent, and your stakeholders and your colleagues that you're working with. And I think at that point it really started clicking for me that if I was going to be successful and really make an impact, I was going to have to start taking more note of the people around me, what their needs are, what they understand, what their problems are, their thoughts about things, their experience, and then really working more closely with them around delivering data analytics solutions that was going to kind of enable us as a business to solve problems very practically. I think that was one of the first things. And then from there, it kind of started to follow, I suppose, how you start inspiring other younger analysts, mentoring them, coaching them, helping them along on their journey, embracing the solutions that they come up with. That's maybe not your ideal solution that you had in mind, but it could end up being better in the end. So I think all of these kind of things, and it kind of snowballs and builds on top of each other.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've sort of made that transition from, manager to leader over time. And it seems like it's really empathy and the ability to listen to what people need. And I noticed obviously on your LinkedIn profile, it's data analytics leader, speaker, and listener as well. Is that part of the sort of secret sauce, would you say, to success?
Yeah, I suppose it's a form of feedback. And also, yeah, partly feedback on what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, what's coming across, what's just getting lost in translation. So it's partly that, but it's also on the other side, learning from other people that's got other experience, that's maybe got more knowledge in a specific area, and also how they're experiencing the very practical challenges. As I said, it's often not about solving these problems theoretically. It has absolutely no impact. It's part of it, but you really need to work with your colleagues and your the people around you and your stakeholders around solving problems in a very practical way.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I'm hearing from most people is really, how do you get involved in the detail of what it is that you're doing and really be able to engage with business as well. So you're solving problems that actually add value rather than sort of hypothesizing and sort of, coming up with things that maybe don't actually get taken up by business. Do you find that that's something that really motivates your team, or does it not really enter the equation because everything that you do is something that gets, put into production in business?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I was actually thinking about it just now. I think it's also more topical now with data science becoming so big, and building models and machine learning and these kind of things. There's often a big theoretical component to it, building this model, solving this thing. And then often it falls down in the implementation or getting it into production. And we had the similar challenges in our area where you come up with, it could be a model, but it could also just be an opportunity that you see, specific piece of communication that you think could work very well. But where we also saw things often kind of falling down was when we just kind of came up with a technical solution of how we think this should be solved. And then we just kind of left it to the sales teams or call center managers or whoever to make it work. And sometimes the challenge was in us not selling it properly. So them not really taking it on board and not really feeling like this was the right thing to do. And then obviously they don't make the most of it. Or it was often also just a translation thing. So we see the solution in a certain way, and the way it's then translated operationally or in production is not what we envisaged. And what we really saw working for that was when we started taking a bit more ownership of the end-to-end process, basically. So a lot of the projects where we saw really good early success was where we're obviously still working with all the different stakeholders, but you never really let go of it. So you're very closely involved in everything from, take a campaigning example, everything from who you're going to talk to, what you're going to tell them, what channels you're going to be using. If it's going into digital channels, you need to start understanding exactly how does social media marketing work, how does digital work, how does the app work, all of these kind of things. In a call center, you need to understand the nitty-gritties of what motivates an agent, how do they manage the workforce, handle things like capacity, those kind of things. So kind of going full circle and then all the way back to tracking and analyzing how well it worked, and seeing where there's room for improvement. So yeah, as I said, you then still work closely with your product partners and your sales partners. But yeah, you're kind of with them throughout.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that is, is your sort of business as usual scenario, etc. So I guess the next obvious question really is, how have you developed or sort of changed as a leader in the last, I don't even know how many weeks it's been now since March and lockdown and whatever, but that's a big thing. It's a very different way of leading. I mean, you've got to do it the same way but different at the same time, because there's a remote workforce, there's stress, there's unusual pressures, etc. How have you seen yourself develop as a leader in these COVID times?
Yeah, so a big thing that I suppose started working on even before the last couple of months and all of the changes we've been through, was around how I give other people more space, more time, do even more listening to really enable them to solve problems. And even when they come to me with questions around how to do something or how to tackle this problem or how we solve this, to really kind of restrain myself from jumping to solutions and offering my opinions. To really listen more, ask them some questions around where they're coming from and how they think we should be solving this and what ideas they got. And then even if it becomes quiet or they don't have the answer, to sit with them for 5 minutes. And even if it's quiet for 5 minutes, it doesn't mean they've stopped thinking. It's one of the key principles of coaching as well. So really stay with them and help them to start figuring out how to solve these problems, and really take it on board. And then if they're going to be driving the project, they really owning this project and driving it. So I think that's something that I kind of started with. And now having more Microsoft Teams meetings and phone calls, suppose it's almost taken that to the next level where you have to kind of just be prepared to give people time. So when you start a meeting, first 15 minutes of your hour meeting is just catching up. What's top of mind for them? What are they struggling with? The power cuts, any other kind of challenges that they're busy with? Are they struggling with connection today? Whatever is top of mind for them, because there's no point jumping into whatever the agenda was,
Mm.
if there's still something that's kind of nagging at them. So
Okay.
to cover that off, spend first 15, 20 minutes just around what's top of mind for them, and then start going into whatever's on the agenda. So whatever problem we're tackling, and then still try and give them as much time as possible to ask questions, to give their opinions, to think if they need a couple of minutes to think. Yeah, so I suppose that's been the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's valuable. And I think it seems like the recurring sort of theme or way that you lead is in a very empathetic style, very sort of human centered. It's really about the person that you're working, understanding them, not just saying, okay, well, you're an employee and this is your job, get it done, but really understanding them as a person and what sort of drives them and how you'll get success from that specific person.
Yeah, I think it's the most sustainable long-term solution for developing people and having business impact and results over time. It's hard. I think in two ways. On the one side, because I've got all this experience and all these ideas, and so it's often difficult to hold that back and not jump into solving the problems and raising my opinions. And on the other hand, there's always business pressures, especially now where business has a lot of additional challenges. Budgets are tight, timelines are tight. There's a lot more pressure as well. So then it's always difficult to think about the longer term and give people time. But yeah, I think that's the challenge of leadership, and I think we just need to keep at trying it out and practically trying to balance these two almost polar opposites, the short-term business pressure and the longer-term developing people and in the long term doing what's best for them and what's best for the company as well.
Great. All right, Michiel, thank you so much. It's been great insights. Firstly, I want to thank you for being such a active promoter of our content through Corinium and our new Business of Data platform that we've just recently launched. And second, congratulations again. I think obviously very well deserved. Great to have you as one of the inaugural award winners. We announced the Project of the Year award a couple of weeks back as well, which will be in a bit more detail at DataCon Africa Live next year. But yeah, congratulations again. It's great to have you as the inaugural winner of the Data Analytics Leader of the Year.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It's really such a privilege. Really appreciate it. And yeah, it's really great to have this Corinium platform. It's just kind of opened up my eyes to a whole new world of, I suppose, a community outside of the workplace, the direct workplace, but I suppose has the same kind of challenges, and yeah, really keen to over time become a even greater part of the community and become more connected to the network that you guys have built up. And yeah, thanks so much for everything you guys are doing.
Yeah, well, leave that to me. We'll definitely have you as a key contributor going forward with your thoughts on leadership and analytics, and yeah, just get you involved in the community in general. So keep well, enjoy your weekend. It's been great to chat to you.
Cool. All the best outside.